This is my true story. While I worked long hours to provide for my family, my wife betrayed me. She cheated with our driver. I never expected the person I trusted most to betray me, right under my roof. The pain was deep, but I decided to act with patience and truth. I collected proof, waited for the right moment, and revealed everything at her family dinner. You are about to hear how I exposed their lies and reclaimed my dignity. Before we start, tell me where you are watching from, and please subscribe so my story reaches more people. At first, I noticed small things. She began spending more time in secret, her phone always in her hand, her messages disappearing quickly when I came near. The laughter I once knew at home changed. She laughed more with the driver, a loud, intimate laughter that felt different. It was not a simple joke or a friendly smile. It was something I could feel, something that cut through the comfort I had built. I noticed it, but I chose to ignore it. I wanted to believe in trust, in the home I had created, and in the woman I loved. She started making excuses for sudden outings. Family errands, she would say, or I have to go shopping. I never questioned her explanations because I believed her. I wanted to see the best in her, to trust completely. I wanted to believe that loyalty was still alive in my home, that love had not been replaced with deceit. Each excuse she gave, I accepted. I did not see the pattern clearly at first, blinded by my own faith in her. The driver began visiting more often than needed. Sometimes it was simple work, sometimes it was unnecessary presence. I did not think too much of it. He had always been part of the house, part of our routine, someone I trusted. I assumed that work was work and that there was nothing more behind his presence. I never imagined that his role could shift into betrayal. I believed in loyalty, in honesty, in respect for the boundaries of home. I believed he would never cross the line. I watched quietly, noticing the subtle changes. Her expressions changed when he entered the room. Her eyes lingered longer. Her voice softened. Small gestures, small touches that went unnoticed by others, revealed a closeness I had never seen before. It was subtle, almost invisible to a stranger, but I could feel it. My heart warned me, but my mind refused to believe. I clung to routine, to trust, to the life I had built. I wanted to dismiss the signs as imagination. The secrecy grew. Messages appeared late at night, disappearing before I could see them. She became careful, calculating, hiding her interactions with the driver. She changed her habits, suddenly busy at odd times, leaving gaps in her schedule that could not be explained. I saw the signs, but I chose to ignore them. I wanted to protect my belief in trust, to believe that our home was still a place of loyalty and honesty. My mind refused to acknowledge the betrayal forming under my roof. I noticed her smiles when she thought I wasn't looking. I noticed her excitement, a spark I had not seen in years, appearing only in the presence of the driver. It was subtle, but unmistakable. It hurt me deeply, though I did not confront it at first. I wanted to see love, not deceit. I wanted to see loyalty, not betrayal. I wanted to believe that the home I had built with care was still safe, still filled with honesty. I replayed moments in my mind, trying to convince myself that I was wrong. Maybe I misunderstood. Maybe it was harmless. Maybe it was just friendly. I wanted to cling to that hope. But the more I observed, the clearer the pattern became. The signs could no longer be ignored. Her attention, her secrecy, her behavior around the driver all pointed to betrayal. But even then, I held on to trust, clinging to the life I had built, hoping that I was mistaken. I felt a growing unease. Every small interaction, every hidden smile, every secretive message chipped away at the foundation of trust I had built. I began to understand that betrayal was forming in the home I had worked so hard to maintain. But still, I hoped. I still wanted to believe that love could overcome deceit, that loyalty could prevail, and that the family I had trusted would remain true. The first signs were small, quiet, almost invisible. But they were there. The laughter, the secrecy, the small touches, the hidden messages, the excuses, they were all pieces of a puzzle that I did not want to complete. I ignored them for too long because I wanted to believe in love, in trust, in the family I had built. But ignoring signs does not stop betrayal. It only delays the truth, making its arrival more painful. Looking back, I see how obvious the first signs were. I see now that patience, observation, and awareness were needed. Trust is important, but so is vigilance. The driver, the woman I loved, both betrayed the trust I placed in them. The first signs were warnings, small cracks in the foundation. I ignored them, hoping for the best, blinded by love and loyalty. But the truth was already forming, and it would not wait for my denial. One evening, I came home early from work. I had finished my tasks sooner than expected, and I thought I would enjoy a quiet evening with my family. I opened the door and felt something was off immediately. The house was too quiet, yet there was an unusual energy in the air. I walked inside slowly, noticing the small details that I had ignored before. Then, I saw the messages and photos on her phone. My heart sank. The betrayal was undeniable. It was not a suspicion anymore. It was real, staring me in the face. The photos showed what I had feared. My wife, the woman I loved and trusted completely, was involved with the driver. The messages were intimate, affectionate, and shameless. I felt the betrayal sting twice. First, from her, the woman I had trusted with my heart, my life, and my home. Second, from him, someone I had never thought capable of such deceit. My home, which I had built with care and love, was already tainted. The foundation I had believed to be strong was cracking under the weight of lies. I sat quietly, staring at the evidence. I tried to understand how it had come to this. How could someone I loved, someone I trusted completely, choose betrayal over loyalty? How could someone who worked for us, lived under the same roof, and was treated with respect, take advantage of my trust? My mind raced, trying to make sense of the impossible. But there was no explanation that could lessen the sting. The betrayal was absolute and undeniable. Every memory of our life together came rushing back. The sacrifices I had made, the late nights, the long hours, the care I had put into our home, all of it felt wasted. I had built a life of trust and love, and she had mocked it behind my back. The driver, whom I had seen as harmless, had taken advantage of my kindness. I realized that betrayal could exist anywhere, even in the most familiar places. Even the people we love and trust most can become instruments of pain. I thought about the quiet evenings, the shared meals, the smiles that I had once believed were genuine. Now, those moments seemed false, tainted by the deception I had discovered. I realized that the home I had created was no longer a safe place. The trust I had placed in my wife and the driver had been exploited. The betrayal cut deep, far deeper than I had imagined. I felt foolish for believing in loyalty so completely, but the lesson was clear and painful. I remembered the early signs I had ignored. The laughter that felt too intimate, the hidden messages, the excuses for outings. Now, everything fell into place. The puzzle I had refused to complete before now became clear. I could no longer deny the reality. The first signs had been warnings, but I had ignored them, blinded by love and trust. The betrayal I had feared for so long was no longer hidden. It was revealed in full clarity, and the pain was overwhelming. I realized that this betrayal was not just emotional. It was also a violation of my home, my space, and my trust. The person I had loved had chosen lust over loyalty, deception over honesty. The driver, someone I had treated as part of the household, had also crossed boundaries, betraying the respect I had given him. The double betrayal made the pain deeper, sharper, and more personal. The life I had worked for, the home I had built, the trust I had given freely, all of it had been violated. Sitting there, I felt a mixture of shock, anger, and sorrow. The betrayal was a punch to my heart, leaving me breathless. I felt a sense of loss that words cannot capture. The people I had trusted most, the ones closest to me, had chosen deception. I realized that betrayal often comes from the people we expect the least. It is quiet, hidden, and patient, waiting for the perfect moment to reveal itself. I had been caught in that moment. But even in the depth of this pain, a sense of clarity emerged. I understood that knowing the truth, even though it hurt, was the first step toward reclaiming control. The discovery gave me a choice. I could either remain a victim, crushed by anger and sorrow, or I could plan my next move carefully. The betrayal had been revealed, and now it was time to consider the consequences for those who had done this. That night, I sat quietly, reflecting on everything. The house felt smaller, the air heavier, the life I had built suddenly fragile. I understood that the betrayal was a turning point. It marked the end of one chapter and the beginning of another. I knew that my response would define me, not the actions of my wife or the driver. The painful discovery had shattered my trust, but it had also awakened a resolve I had not known I possessed. I realized that from this moment on, nothing could be the same. The home, once a place of comfort and trust, had been transformed into a space of betrayal. The people I had loved and trusted had shown their true colors. I felt the sting of deception deeply, but I also felt the beginnings of determination. The painful discovery was the first step in a journey of truth, exposure, and eventual justice. For days after the discovery, I carried the weight in silence. I could not speak to anyone. I could not confront her yet. I needed time to think, to process what had happened, and to decide my next steps. Each day, I replayed the events in my mind, trying to understand how trust had been broken under my roof. The silence was heavy, but it gave me space to reflect. I thought about every moment of my life that I had devoted to this family, every sacrifice I had made for comfort, security, and love. I remembered the long hours I had worked, the nights I stayed late at the office, and the energy I had spent building a life for my family. Every choice I had made, every effort I had given, was for them. I had trusted my wife completely, believing in her loyalty, her love, and her respect. I had trusted the driver, believing he was honest, respectful, and harmless. Now, all that trust had been shattered, replaced by betrayal. The silence I carried was filled with the sting of deception. I thought about her choices. She had chosen lust over loyalty, desire over honesty. She had taken what I had given freely, trust, love, care, and used it for her own pleasure. The realization cut deep. I had shared my life with her, and in return, she had hidden betrayal behind smiles and lies. I had given everything to make her happy, and she had ignored it. I understood finally that love is not enough when trust is broken. Loyalty must be chosen. I reflected on the betrayal of someone living under my roof. The driver had been part of our household, someone I treated with respect. He had seen the life I had built, the sacrifices I had made, and he had ignored boundaries. The betrayal from him was shocking because I had never suspected it. I had assumed loyalty, honesty, and respect. His actions reminded me that trust can be exploited, even by those we think are harmless. I learned that vigilance is necessary, even with those who seem loyal. Each day of silence gave me clarity. I realized that anger alone would not fix the damage. I needed strategy, patience, and careful thought. I thought about the consequences of exposing them too early, the risks of confrontation without evidence, and the need to protect my own dignity. Silence became my tool. It allowed me to observe, to plan, and to prepare for the moment when truth would be revealed fully and effectively. I remembered every sacrifice I had made, the long hours at work, the money spent for comfort, the energy given to maintain peace in the home, the efforts to keep family happy. All of it was part of a life I had built with care. Yet, all these sacrifices had been taken for granted, mocked, and betrayed. The sting of being deceived by someone I loved and someone I had trusted deeply was sharp. It left an ache that no words could describe. During the silent reflection, I also thought about my own responsibility. Could I have noticed the signs earlier? Could I have prevented this betrayal? The answer was not simple. Love had blinded me. Trust had made me vulnerable. But reflection taught me that while I could not prevent the betrayal, I could control my response. I could choose how to act, how to restore dignity, and how to reclaim my peace. The silence allowed me to see this clearly. I considered the lessons of betrayal. I learned that even in a home built with care, deceit can hide quietly. I learned that the ones we trust most can sometimes hurt us the deepest. I learned that love without vigilance can be dangerous. The silent days forced me to confront these truths, to face the pain, and to understand that the journey ahead required more than anger. It required wisdom, planning, and patience. In the quiet of my reflection, I also realized the power of evidence. Words alone could not undo the betrayal. Confrontation without proof could be twisted, dismissed, or ignored. I needed facts, proof, and strategy. The silent days were spent thinking about how to gather evidence, how to document betrayal, and how to reveal it in a way that would leave no doubt. Reflection became preparation. Pain became clarity. Betrayal became purpose. I also thought about my own future. Silence gave me time to imagine the life I wanted after this betrayal. I knew I could not remain in a house filled with lies. I knew I could not live in a space where trust had been destroyed. Reflection allowed me to envision a life of dignity, honesty, and control. The betrayal had taken something from me, but reflection taught me that I could reclaim my life, rebuild my trust carefully, and act with wisdom. Finally, the silent reflection brought resolve. I understood that exposing the betrayal would not be easy, but it was necessary. Silence had shown me the weight of truth, the consequences of inaction, and the power of careful planning. I knew that when the time came, I would act calmly, confidently, and with undeniable proof. Reflection had transformed pain into strength, betrayal into awareness, and anger into a deliberate plan for justice. After days of silent reflection, I made a decision. I knew that confronting them quietly would lead to lies, excuses, and more deception. They would deny everything, twist the truth, and leave me frustrated. I realized that the only way to reclaim control and restore dignity was through public exposure. I needed a plan, patience, and clear proof. The decision was not made in anger, but in calm determination. I understood that truth, shown at the right moment, would be more powerful than confrontation or shouting. I started collecting proof carefully. Every message, every photo, every hidden recording was saved. I knew that without evidence, my words could be dismissed. I documented everything meticulously. I went through messages she had sent secretly, photos she had shared, and the interactions that clearly showed betrayal. Each piece of evidence strengthened my resolve. I understood that preparation was key, and rushing would only weaken my position. The betrayal had to be revealed at the right moment, in the right way, for maximum impact. Planning the reveal became my focus. I chose her family dinner as the moment to expose the truth. It was the right time because all the relatives would be present. The betrayal would be undeniable in front of witnesses, leaving no room for lies or excuses. I thought about the reactions of those present. I imagined the gasps, the whispers, the shock. The public exposure would strip the deceit of its power. It would transform shame into clarity, turning the tables on those who had thought they were clever. I thought carefully about my own approach. I would remain calm, composed, and silent until the moment arrived. Anger would not serve me. Yelling would weaken my position. The power lay in the evidence, in the undeniable truth, displayed clearly and patiently. I knew that calmness would make the betrayal even more visible. The room would see the facts, not my emotions. I prepared myself mentally for the moment, rehearsing the steps silently in my mind, ensuring that nothing could go wrong. Every detail mattered. I decided how to present the evidence. I arranged the messages and photos logically, showing the progression of betrayal. I included recordings to remove any doubt. I wanted every person present to understand the full extent of the deceit. I wanted the truth to be visible to all, leaving the betrayers exposed. The plan required patience and careful timing, but I knew that when executed properly, it would deliver justice without me raising my voice. I thought about the consequences. Her family would be shocked, the driver would face humiliation, and my wife would no longer hold power through deception. I understood that public exposure would hurt them deeply, but it was necessary. Betrayal cannot be ignored, trust cannot be taken for granted. The consequences had to be visible, undeniable, and final. The decision I made was not just about revenge, it was about restoring balance, dignity, and truth. I reflected on my own emotions. I needed to set aside anger, resentment, and hurt, focusing only on the plan. The power lay in calm, collected action. I understood that emotion could cloud judgment. I reminded myself that this was not about revenge in the traditional sense. It was about justice, clarity, and exposing lies. I prepared myself to face the room, to reveal the evidence, and to remain steady, letting the betrayal speak for itself. Every piece of evidence I collected became a tool. Each screenshot, photo, and recording represented a step toward reclaiming my dignity. I organized everything meticulously, ensuring nothing could be misinterpreted or dismissed. The betrayal would be shown clearly and logically. I understood that preparation was essential. Impulsive actions would weaken the impact. I had to be deliberate, careful, and patient. The decision to plan the reveal was already proving to be the correct one. I also considered her reaction. She would likely try to deny, deflect, or manipulate. I anticipated her excuses, her attempts to twist the story. That is why evidence had to be undeniable. I would not argue, explain, or plead. The facts would speak for themselves. Her lies would crumble in the face of proof. The driver would also be unable to defend himself. The betrayal that once gave them confidence and control would vanish instantly when truth was revealed publicly. Finally, I understood that this decision was a turning point. I could either let betrayal dominate my life or take control through calm, calculated exposure. I chose the latter. The plan was set. Evidence was ready. The timing was right. I had made the decision to act with intelligence, patience, and dignity. The betrayal would be exposed, their power removed, and my life reclaimed. The decision gave me purpose, focus, and clarity. It transformed pain into action and betrayal into opportunity for justice. The night of her family dinner arrived. I walked in calmly, hiding all anger and pain. I carried myself with quiet confidence, knowing that everything I had prepared would speak louder than any words I could say. I observed the room, seeing familiar faces of her family, expecting a night of celebration. But I was ready. I had the evidence in hand. I had planned the moment carefully. I knew that the betrayal would be revealed publicly, leaving no space for lies or excuses. I started slowly, presenting the proof one by one. Screenshots of messages, photos, recordings, all laid out clearly for everyone to see. There was no yelling, no confrontation. I allowed the evidence to speak for itself. The room fell silent as people began to understand what had happened. The betrayal became visible to all. The proof showed the intimacy, the deception, and the shamelessness of the acts. The calm display made the truth undeniable. People's reactions were immediate. Gasps filled the room. Whispers spread quickly from one person to another. Faces showed shock, confusion, and then anger. I stayed calm, letting the evidence do the work. I did not need to argue, explain, or raise my voice. Every fact I presented left them with no choice but to acknowledge the betrayal. The proof transformed suspicion into certainty, and the room understood what had been hidden from them. Her relatives turned toward her, eyes wide with disbelief. The betrayal that had been secret for so long was now visible to all. Her power through lies was gone. Every smile, every excuse, every manipulated moment was stripped away by the clarity of evidence. The driver had no defense. The truth left him exposed and vulnerable. The calm, deliberate presentation left no room for argument. It was clear to everyone that deceit had occurred, and it was undeniable. I could see the tension grow. Her family confronted her instantly, demanding answers. She stammered, faltered, tried to explain, but the evidence was overwhelming. The betrayal could not be hidden behind lies or excuses. The driver also tried to defend himself, but all words were meaningless in the face of proof. The atmosphere was heavy, filled with disappointment, shock, and anger. The room, once filled with laughter and celebration, was now a stage for truth and justice. The betrayal unfolded before everyone's eyes. Each screenshot, each photo, Each recording revealed a new layer of deception. The timeline of lies, the hidden meetings, the secret conversations, all became visible. The room witnessed the full extent of the deceit. Her laughter, her hidden glances, the intimate words shared with the driver, all exposed in a calm, deliberate display. The truth was undeniable, powerful, and final. The calmness I maintained gave the moment strength. My composure contrasted with their shame and confusion. Anger would have diluted the impact. Calm presentation made the betrayal even more striking. Every person present understood that the evidence was real, that the betrayal was deliberate, and that the consequences were now public. My dignity, maintained throughout, made the revelation even more potent. The room slowly absorbed the truth. Relatives who had once trusted her now turned on her. Their expressions shifted from disbelief to anger and disappointment. The betrayal could no longer be ignored. The driver, once a familiar and trusted presence, was now viewed as a deceiver. The power of their secret was gone, replaced by public clarity and understanding. The betrayal, once hidden in silence, now dominated the room. The dinner, once a place of joy and family gathering, became a moment of exposure. The truth had been revealed calmly, deliberately, and clearly. No words could hide what the evidence showed. The betrayal, once secret, was now visible to all. My calmness, preparation, and patience had ensured that the truth had maximum impact. The room understood fully. The deception could not continue. It was over. Finally, as the evidence lay clear before everyone, I felt a sense of control return. The betrayal had been exposed, their lies had been stripped away, and my dignity remained intact. The silence and planning had paid off. The truth had its moment, and it was undeniable. I had revealed the betrayal publicly, calmly, and effectively. The room, once blind to the deception, now saw clearly the full extent of their wrongdoing. Justice, in the form of truth, had been served. The moment the evidence was fully revealed, the room erupted with shock and confusion. Her family, who had trusted her completely, turned to her instantly. Their expressions changed from disbelief to anger, disappointment, and hurt. Every lie, every secret, every hidden act was now visible. There was no place to hide. The betrayal that had once given her a sense of power and control was gone. In its place was shame, exposure, and public scrutiny. Their confidence vanished instantly. The driver's excuses meant nothing. Every word he tried to say was drowned out by the undeniable proof before everyone. The messages, photos, and recordings spoke louder than any explanation. His attempts to justify or explain were futile. The betrayal he had committed could not be erased, ignored, or denied. In front of the family, it became clear that he had violated trust, crossed boundaries, and exploited both loyalty and opportunity. His role in the betrayal was fully exposed. Her family confronted her with harsh questions. Each query was backed by the evidence I had displayed. The room demanded truth, and the truth could not be avoided. Her lies, which had worked so well in private, failed completely in public. Every smile, every excuse, every hidden action was laid bare. The shock on her face revealed her realization. The power she had thought she held through deception was gone. The betrayal that had been secret was now public, undeniable, and irreversible. The driver faced immediate judgment as well. Friends, family, and witnesses all understood his role in the betrayal. The trust he had been given, both as an employee and as a part of the household, had been violated. His social and professional reputation began to crumble instantly. Those who had once seen him as loyal now viewed him as deceitful and manipulative. The public exposure ensured that he could not escape the consequences of his actions. I observed quietly, allowing the truth to take its course. My anger was held in check, replaced with calm satisfaction. The plan had worked. The betrayal that had once caused pain and confusion was now met with clarity and justice. No one could deny what had been done. Her family, once blind to the deceit, now saw everything clearly. The driver, who had hidden behind his role, now faced the reality of his actions. The fallout was immediate, severe, and just. The atmosphere in the room shifted from shock to confrontation. Her relatives confronted her harshly, demanding explanations and accountability. They no longer listened to excuses or justifications. The betrayal had stripped her of the ability to manipulate perception. Her power through secrecy had been removed. Each relative now understood the depth of her deception and the magnitude of the betrayal she had committed. I could see her pride crumble. The arrogance she had carried privately was gone. Public exposure had stripped her of her defenses. Every gesture of denial, every attempt to control the narrative, failed completely. The betrayal, once hidden behind smiles and excuses, now stood in full clarity. The driver, too, had no shield. Both had underestimated the power of preparation, patience, and evidence. Their world, built on lies, began collapsing in front of the very people who had trusted them. Whispers spread across the room. Family members discussed the betrayal openly, analyzing the evidence, confirming its truth. The deception could no longer influence perceptions. It had been exposed fully and publicly. The emotional weight of betrayal, once hidden in secrecy, was now shared by all present. The consequences were immediate, leaving no room for denial. Their shame was visible, and their lies were powerless. The betrayal had transformed the dinner from a celebration into a moment of judgment. Every act of deceit, every secret interaction, every hidden message was laid bare. Her family and the witnesses now understood the full extent of the wrongdoing. The driver and my wife had underestimated the power of truth. Their actions, once secret, now became public knowledge, leaving them humiliated and exposed. The fallout was severe and immediate. Finally, I realized that the immediate fallout was more than just punishment. It was clarity. The betrayal, once hidden, now had consequences. Her family saw her true character. The driver's deception was clear to all. The power of lies and secrecy had been removed, replaced by undeniable truth. In that moment, calm exposure had become stronger than anger or confrontation. The immediate fallout was complete, public, and just. After the dinner reveal, word spread quickly. Everyone who knew them soon learned the truth. Friends, relatives, neighbors, and colleagues began to hear about the betrayal. The driver and my wife could no longer hide behind secrecy. The lies that once protected them were gone. Their world, built on deception and false trust, began collapsing piece by piece. People who had once respected them now turned away. The shame of exposure followed them everywhere, leaving no room to escape the consequences of their actions. Her family relations suffered immediately. Parents, siblings, and close relatives who had trusted her were shocked and angry. They confronted her, demanded explanations, and withdrew support. The trust she had relied on was destroyed. Every relationship she had relied on became strained or broken. The betrayal was not private anymore. It had consequences far beyond the walls of the house. Family ties, once strong, were now weakened. Her reputation, carefully maintained over years, began crumbling under the weight of truth. The driver also faced collapse. Colleagues and neighbors who had once seen him as dependable now viewed him as untrustworthy. His professional life suffered. His friends and acquaintances distanced themselves. Social circles that had once welcomed him now rejected him. The deception that had given him power and opportunity was now his undoing. Exposure had turned confidence into fear, manipulation into shame, and secrecy into humiliation. He had no allies left. Their arrogance, which had guided their secret actions, became their weakness. They had believed their acts could remain hidden, that deception would protect them. But the truth proved stronger than their lies. Every attempt to explain or justify failed. Public exposure had stripped them of control. The collapse was complete. They were left vulnerable, exposed, and socially isolated. Their world, once orderly and secure, now felt unstable and empty. Word of their betrayal spread through the community. Friends, neighbors, and distant relatives discussed the scandal openly. The deception that had once been hidden was now public knowledge. The gossip and judgment became unavoidable. They had underestimated the reach of truth. Their social standing, once solid, had eroded. They experienced humiliation in every place they went. The exposure left them powerless and visible in a way that private secrecy never could. The collapse was not only social, but emotional. My wife and the driver experienced the consequences of being stripped of respect, trust, and dignity. Every glance from people around them reflected judgment. The isolation was immediate. Their confidence, once visible in pride and arrogance, vanished. Exposure left them defenseless against the reactions of those who had once believed in them. The consequences of betrayal were swift and unrelenting. I observed quietly as their world unraveled. The power they had believed they held through secrecy and manipulation was gone. Their arrogance turned into shame. Their private triumph, built on the exploitation of trust, had vanished in a moment. Exposure had revealed the truth to all, transforming fear into understanding, deceit into clarity. Their collapse was inevitable, a direct result of the choices they had made. Even daily routines became difficult for them. Simple social interactions now reminded them of exposure. Former allies and friends avoided them. Conversations were filled with whispers about betrayal and dishonesty. Their reputations, carefully maintained for years, were irreversibly damaged. The collapse was total. Every space they once controlled, every person they once influenced, now reflected the consequences of their actions. The betrayal that had caused pain for me now had its own consequence for them. Public humiliation, social rejection, and family disappointment became their new reality. Exposure had removed all secrecy, and the collapse was complete. They could no longer pretend, hide, or manipulate. Every relationship, every position of respect, every sense of security, all crumbled. The world they had built through deceit and manipulation had fallen apart entirely. Finally, I understood the full weight of exposure. Betrayal has consequences beyond private pain. Lies and deception, once revealed, collapse the very foundations of life built on them. Their world, once stable, was destroyed by the truth I revealed calmly and deliberately. The collapse was total, final, and just. They were left humiliated, socially rejected, and personally isolated, victims of their own arrogance. After the collapse of their world, I walked away quietly. I did not shout. I did not act with anger. I left the chaos behind and focused on rebuilding my life. I understood that the past could not be changed. What was done was done. The betrayal had hurt deeply, but dwelling on it would serve no purpose. I chose to focus on what I could control, my own life, my own dignity, and my own future. I decided that calm action and quiet strength were more powerful than revenge or anger. I started by rebuilding my personal life. I focused on routines, work, and small achievements that restored my sense of purpose. I invested my energy in activities that gave me clarity and peace. I surrounded myself with people I could trust, slowly reconstructing my circle of relationships. The betrayal had taught me the importance of trust and vigilance. I now understood that life could be fragile and the people around me could surprise me, both with loyalty and betrayal. Every day, I reminded myself that revenge did not need violence. The exposure of truth had already served as justice. The calm, deliberate reveal at her family dinner had been sufficient. I did not need to seek further punishment. I let the truth speak for itself. The shame, social rejection, and isolation they experienced were consequences enough. I found satisfaction in knowing that my dignity had remained intact while theirs had been shattered. My actions were measured, my response deliberate, and my peace preserved. I rebuilt my home slowly, creating spaces of clarity and calm. Every room reminded me of lessons learned. I focused on living honestly, valuing trust, and appreciating relationships built on respect. The betrayal had shown me the importance of vigilance, but also the power of patience. I understood that true strength comes from calmness, preparation, and knowing when to act. My new life became a reflection of these principles, and I felt increasingly in control. Socially, I rebuilt my reputation carefully. People who knew the truth saw my calm, composed nature. They respected the way I handled betrayal. I became a quiet example of strength, showing that exposure of truth, rather than anger or aggression, is the most effective response. I understood that public perception is powerful, but dignity, patience, and preparation are stronger. My new life was guided by these principles. Emotionally, I healed slowly. The pain of betrayal remained, but it no longer dominated my thoughts. The exposure of truth had turned heartbreak into clarity. I understood that people's actions are beyond our control, but our responses define our character. By focusing on my own life, my own dignity, and my own future, I reclaimed the strength that betrayal had tried to take from me. I also focused on boundaries. Trust became important, but careful observation became part of my relationships. I learned to appreciate loyalty and honesty while remaining vigilant. Betrayal had shown me the fragility of trust, but it also taught me the importance of discernment. My new life included lessons in judgment, patience, and planning. I became more careful, yet calm, in my interactions and choices. Each day brought small achievements that reinforced my sense of control. I worked, I planned, I cared for myself and those I trusted. The chaos of the past no longer defined me. I had reclaimed my life. My dignity remained intact. The betrayal, though painful, had taught me lessons that shaped my character, strengthened my resolve, and prepared me for a future where truth and patience guide decisions. I realized that revenge is not about anger or violence. Revenge is about exposure, justice, and reclaiming control. The calm, deliberate actions I had taken were sufficient. My new life was built on clarity, patience, and truth. I no longer wasted energy on bitterness or resentment. Instead, I focused on growth, dignity, and rebuilding trust carefully. Finally, walking away quietly gave me freedom. I had acted wisely, exposed the betrayal, and left the chaos behind. Life moved forward. The betrayal no longer had power over me. I found strength in calmness, dignity in preparation, and peace in knowing that truth had prevailed. My new life became a testament to resilience, patience, and quiet justice. Now, as an older man, I look back on everything with clear eyes. The betrayal I experienced hurt deeply, but it did not destroy me. Every decision I made, from silent reflection to careful exposure, shaped the person I became. Time has given me perspective. I can see the lessons clearly, and I understand that the truth is the strongest weapon anyone can have. Betrayal may wound, but calm, deliberate action, and evidence restore dignity. My life today is peaceful because I chose clarity over chaos. I think about trust and loyalty often. They are fragile, yet essential. The betrayal taught me to value them carefully. I understand now that love alone is not enough to protect against deceit. Vigilance, observation, and awareness are necessary. Betrayal will always hurt, but the response defines the outcome. My calm exposure of the truth gave me power, dignity, and control. It transformed despair into clarity and chaos into justice. I no longer fear betrayal because I know the importance of preparation and patience. Silence was one of my most important tools. The days I spent reflecting gave me strength and focus. Silence allows you to think, to see clearly, and to prepare. I learned that acting too soon, acting in anger, or acting without evidence weakens any plan. Calm patience is stronger than rage. By waiting, gathering proof, and choosing the right moment, I was able to reveal the truth with maximum effect. Silence had transformed my heartbreak into strategy, and strategy into justice. I also reflect on the nature of exposure. Public revelation is powerful. The betrayal, once hidden, became undeniable when shown clearly to everyone. Lies crumble when faced with proof. Secrets are only powerful until they are revealed. The public dinner, the evidence, the calm presentation, these were my tools. They ensured that the betrayal had consequences. I realized that exposing truth is not revenge in the cruel sense. It is justice and restoration of balance. Life after exposure taught me patience. The fallout was immediate, but long-term effects were also visible. Relationships that had been built on trust were reevaluated. The betrayers faced social, emotional, and professional consequences. Observing this taught me that truth has lasting impact. Lies can only survive for so long. Exposure ensures that betrayal cannot continue unpunished. I learned that justice does not need anger. It needs clarity, calmness, and preparation. I think about the lessons I would share with others. Betrayal will happen. Trust will be broken. But the response must be deliberate. Acting calmly, gathering evidence, and revealing the truth strategically is stronger than violence, confrontation, or anger. Patience and clarity allow dignity to remain intact, while exposing betrayal ensures justice. These lessons became the foundation of my new life. I rebuilt trust, carefully chose relationships, and lived with awareness. I also learned to let go of anger. Exposure of truth does not require hatred or resentment. It requires patience, clarity, and calm execution. The betrayal had hurt me, but it did not have to define me. By acting wisely, I reclaimed control over my life. My dignity remained intact, and the consequences for the betrayers were severe and undeniable. Peace comes from calm action, not chaos. Patience transforms heartbreak into power, and exposure transforms betrayal into justice. Reflection also brings gratitude. I am grateful for the lessons learned, even if they came from pain. I am grateful for the clarity that silence and observation brought me. I am grateful that I was able to act with dignity and avoid actions that could have harmed me morally or socially. The betrayal could have destroyed me, but reflection allowed me to turn it into growth, awareness, and peace. My life today is stronger because of the choices I made during that difficult time. Finally, I think about the power of truth. The betrayers believed they were hidden. They believed secrecy would protect them. But the truth always finds its way. Exposure does not need violence or chaos. Evidence and patience are enough. Betrayal, once revealed, loses all power. Their arrogance, secrecy, and deception were destroyed by clarity and calm action. The lessons of betrayal, patience, and exposure guide my life today. The final thought I carry is simple. Betrayal will hurt, but truth restores balance. Silence, patience, and careful action empower those who act wisely. Lies and deceit are temporary. Exposure, clarity, and calm ensure justice and dignity. I lived through betrayal, heartbreak, and public exposure, and I am stronger for it. The truth I revealed transformed pain into purpose, betrayal into awareness, and loss into a new life. They thought they were hidden, but the truth found its way to the light.